Hi, I'm Jasmine McCall, aka Jazzy Mac, and I am a finance and credit coach, serial entrepreneur, and investor. I am also the owner of the Jazzy Mac brand. And today I will be reviewing some of the worst hip hop investments. What makes a bad investment is any investment that you have not done due diligence for. Anything that you are doing based on something that you saw on social media or something that you are doing out of emotion, these get rich quick schemes, and anything that you cannot project some sort of return on investment is a bad investment. Well, I think a bad investment for clothing is anything that you can't reuse or recycle. Clothes obviously depreciate, so we don't want to spend an astronomical amount of money on something that is only going to go down in value. So I think the best investment you can make in clothes and any type of wardrobe is stuff that can be used in multiple settings, things that can be reworn. Tiffany Haddish got a lot of flack when she purchased a $4,000 Alexander McQueen dress, and she wore it twice. But I love the fact that she was willing to wear it twice because it was an investment that, she was able to wear into multiple settings. And I think that that was a great use of money, especially for a designer of that genre. And so I think if I were going to invest in clothes, I would probably spend more money in a stylist that can create certain looks. Whatever the look is that you're going for, you should have a stylist that knows how to recreate the same exact or similar look that Jay-Z may have been wearing for a fraction of the cost. I think there are certain types of jewelry that I think, for instance, if you have a classic Rolex, things that could be considered antiques or things that are just in general very hard to find. So, a customized chain with your face on the front of it is not going to be something that's going to be easily resellable, and it's not going to be something that is, it holds value. It's going to lose its value. I think that it's important to understand that gold itself goes up and down in value. Even when you think about the dollar in general, the dollar itself is losing its value. So if you are going to invest in some sort of jewelry, it needs to be classic pieces, timeless pieces, things that even if you were to sell them 20 years from now, you could still see some sort of profit on those things. Cars, I think if you're talking about, a 1942 Bugatti that you're going to only have as some sort of display item. Those are things that, you could buy it for $1 million and then resell it for 1.5. So if you're talking about a classic car, something that truly is meant to be a piece of, property that you have that's going to appreciate over time, I think that's a good investment. But, the typical Range Rovers, the Maybachs, all of those fancy cars, I think that those are things that you should probably shy away from because they're going to depreciate in value. There will not be a lot of return on investment for those types of items. The word afford is relative. So it's based on, what you plan to do with your financial future. I mean, do you plan to send your kids to college? Because now what you can afford, if college tuition is $10,000 per year or $20,000 per year, what you can afford is now going to change significantly, if you're a single guy with no kids versus a family man with 4 kids. So I don't know that people are aware that most days they can't afford the things that they think. I think a good rule of thumb is if you can't afford to pay for something in cash 3 times over, then you probably cannot afford it. Well, I would wonder what the property value is. I understand that he paid $100 million for it, but I'm hoping that if this is not going to be his forever home, whenever he gets ready to sell the home, that he'll be able to make a nice profit on it. So I don't have a problem with the person making a large investment, or making a large purchase because, some of us got it and some of us don't. But just you should always have a long-term strategy for those types of purchases. I think that some of the smartest investors typically live off of about 9% of their income. Whatever that is, from salary, investments, whatever, they live off about 9% of it. Let's just say 10%. 10% of 200 million would be 20 million. And so if he's living, sort of modestly, I think even a $20 million home is still a bit of a stretch, but I would feel much comfortable because that's a much smaller percentage of his net value, his net worth. So yeah, allegedly, if that's the case, I would not say that that is the best form of an investment, unless he plans to sell the house for 120 or 150, somewhere along there. Well, I don't think that you should be paying for anyone that isn't building value in your brand or isn't building some type of, it has to be some sort of contribution. So if you're going to be on my payroll, I need to justify that expense. And I think a lot of people want to have an entourage because it feels good to have a bunch of people around you. And of course, you want to look out for your family. You don't want to leave anything or anybody behind. But I think even in the sense of not wanting to leave someone behind, I think it could be one of the most expensive things that you can do as an artist, as a musician, because you're spending money and you're not bringing anything in, or those people that you're spending money on are not bringing things in. And so I think that there should be a budget for everything. I think that everything that you do should make logical sense. Again, a lot of people spend money emotionally. They spend money because it makes them feel good. So if I can take my whole entourage on a shopping spree, that's going to make me feel good in the moment. But, just from a long-term perspective, if I can't feed these people, then what? If I have to file bankruptcy. And so I think the biggest favor you can do for someone is to maybe show them how to make their own money. And I think that is what gives people the best sort of setup in life versus you just spending money on people. I think you got to have some accountability. You have to have somebody that's going to check you on these purchases. When I think about different artists that have really high net worths, it's common that they'll have a broker, there's an attorney, a tax attorney, there's an accountant, there's all of these people that are in their financial flow of money management that's designed to kind of be like a system of checks and balances. So I think you should have somebody that's checking your spending and saying, okay, you spent $3,000 on Rodeo Drive this day, and then you went to Fifth Avenue, you spent $10,000. Let's slow down on the spending, or let's develop a reasonable budget for the spending. I don't know that a lot of people have those type of accountability partners in hip hop, especially. But I think that the biggest favor you can do for yourself is to have somebody constantly checking what you're spending.
You think your rap high, you like, I got this rap, and you get a beat from your man, you put it down, and you put it out, and it do whatever, it go platinum. You think you're gonna see all this money? It ain't gonna happen like that. Cause even if your single going for $4, you make $4 million off of that, but you only seeing some cent. Cause the record company, first of all, you got the record company, that's putting the album out, and they controlling most of the equity that come, from that album, all the money. They getting their percentage. They getting probably more than 60%.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because they putting it out as they brand, as they label. They paying for the people to distribute. Your album, and the distributors got to get their little piece and they break down from it. And then your record label might gas you. I might buy your publishing. And your publishing is what you eat off of. And that's what I was talking about with that BDS, them spins. When you own your own publishing, that means you own the right to your lyrics. When you sign your contract and you sign away your publishing, that means everything that you write, you writing for this person because he own that. He own you. So it's like slave. You like a slave to your label until you pay back whatever he gave you. Advance or whatever, they tell you that we assign you for this amount of money or whatever. You even say they sign you for $1 million. Let me tell you how broke you'll get real quick. They sign you for $1 million. You got $1 million. Say $2 million, because $1 million ain't no money on some real. And I spent $1 million in 7 months, but that's another topic, and that's on some real shit. They give you $2 million. Now you go the legit route. Uncle Sam, you in a different tax bracket now because you're an entertainer. You know what I'm saying? So it's step up. So they give you $2 million after you in that 40-50% tax brackets. You got $1 million. Now you got lawyers. You got lawyers that handle your business and the paperwork from your contracts. They might want anywhere between 5 and 10%. We're gonna max out, say 10%. So out of that $1 million, now you only got but you left with 900,000. You know what I mean? You just got a $2 million check, and only 2 people got paid out of that check. You only got 900,000. Now you got management. Your management take anywhere between 10 and 20%. So out of that 900,000, they take 20%. You know what I mean? Out of that, so you got 900,000. You know what I mean? A check. So you do the math on that. 10% of that 900,000 is 90,000. Then you got another 10% because they getting 20%. So 90,000 to 90,000. That's right there. That's 180,000 out to 90,000. So you take the math. You do the math out that. That's 720. You got 720,000 out of that. Now your management got broke down. Your lawyer got broke down. Uncle Sam took their money. You know what I'm saying? Now you got 720,000 out of 2 million. All right, you can't do shit with that because you ghetto rich. That's the same shit you was getting in the hood. If you was hustling right, you better have at least $500,000 buried somewhere, duct tape wrapped up or whatever. So you go out, you buy the crib. You get a crib like, you know what I mean, 200,000. You moving out the suburbs because cribs in the hood right now, 150 something. You damn near in the projects. You know what I'm saying? So you go get a nice crib. Say you spend $250,000 on that, 250 out the 720 you got. You know what I'm saying? So you left right now with the 250. You probably got like 4 and some change left. So you go buy a little well. You can't buy the Bentley. I got 2 Bentleys. You know what I mean? My Bentleys, one of my Bentleys cost $360 for the red label, the Reese Cup chocolate brown peanut butter guts, V12 engine in it, red label, ridiculous. The blue Bentley that costs like $270, $280. You know what I mean? That's the green label. Both of them is Entourages, but that's another story. You know what I mean? Forget about that. That's all. That's over $500,000 a car. But you go buy the, you know what I mean, the Benz. You get the 600. You know what I mean? You get that, what, $160, $170 out of the 4 something. Now you got 3 and some change left. Now, all your homies and all your new relatives and your friends come around. So you're going to get jewels. My bracelet, I paid like 42 for this and about 30 something for this. So that's 40 something, 30 something. That's damn near 80,000. That's almost a bean right there. The chain right there with the piece alone, platinum, everything platinum. My piece costs about 20,000, some shit like that. You gonna go get some jewels. I don't even got the ring, the watches that I got home, and the other jewels that I don't even wear because I can't wear all that shit. Like Mr. T look like a clown. You know what I'm saying? So you go buy you some jewels. You know what I mean? You don't go all out like me. You go get some jewels. You get a nice watch. You're going to spend about 20 to 30. You know what I mean? Nice chain, about 20. Bracelet, 20 to 30. You know what I'm saying? You keep it basic. Yo, after that, that's another bean, almost 200 out to 4 something. You down to $1. Now, you got your friends that's coming around. So say you got a couple friends, you want to break them off. Birds in the hood, you get a brick. Brick like anywhere between 22 and then drought. It's like little free just came in, and a drought is it's like 22 without a drought, and the drought it go anywhere between 26 and 30 something. So you get a couple homies a brick. Say you look out for like 4 of your homies, give them a brick. That's another bean. Now you only got 100,000 left, and you got the car, you got the crib, you broke everybody down, but you still owe that $2 million, and you got a car note, and you got a crib that you got to pay mortgage on and bills. You broke within like 4 something months. Is ridiculous.
I think what he's saying is extremely accurate. I think it's real. I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they get this money, get any type of advance, is they think that that's their money. An advance is one of the most expensive loans you can take. So that $2 million, it comes at a really high premium, as he was saying. He didn't even explain the taxes on it. You know, that type of tax bracket, you're talking about probably having to pay 35 to 50% upfront in taxes before you start breaking everybody else down. And so you're already in a ditch. You're already in this hole. So I think what he's saying is extremely accurate. I wish that they had that sort of education for, you know, those people that are signing those types of deals. But, you know, ignorance is expensive. And so anytime somebody's offering you money, you know, if it's too good to be true, or if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And that's a perfect example of something that seems too good to be true because there's so much attached to it. I would tell them not to take an advance. under any situation. I think there are just so many different ways that you can structure a contract. There's so many different ways that you can structure compensation, any type of payouts. Even today, we see where people are being offered jobs and being paid in crypto. I've had several jobs where I was given equity in a company. I think it's important to get creative in how someone gives you money and to understand the terms under what comes with that money, because generally money, any type of payout, is going to be very expensive. So I would always say to read through your contracts to understand what happens if you terminate a contract, what happens if you don't, for any reason, you just don't pop off the way that you thought you would. What is going to be the financial obligation? Are you going to walk away with clean hands? And to understand if that contract is flexible. Can it be altered? Is there some sort of addendum that can be added based on a certain level of success? So I think that there is a little bit of law that people need to study, contract law, before you sign anything. So another emotional investment. I think people add things to their houses to make it into a home. And there's nothing wrong with you customizing a home or doing things that makes it more livable or more comfortable. However, it's true what he says. None of the things that you install in that house are going to be things that you pick up and take into another house. So somebody, the next purchaser of that house, just got a great house with gold ceilings, but that's, again, return on investment. That's not something that he can get money back from without damaging the house. And so I think that real estate in general, I have always been taught that should be a long-term plan. It should be something that yields a long-term investment. Now, if you're flipping properties, if that's your thing, then obviously you can make a more aggressive purchase in real estate and hopefully you get a very quick return. But I think when it comes to hip hop, nobody is really purchasing houses to flip them. I think they're purchasing houses in an attempt to, maybe flex a little bit or keep up with an image. And I understand that all comes with the territory. But again, that's one of the most expensive mistakes you can make, because with a house, you're not just buying a house, you're paying the taxes, the real estate taxes, all of the fees, even the HOA fees. Some people pay thousands of dollars per month just in HOA fees. And I think that there are just so many underlying costs to maintain a house that I think a lot of people are not cognizant of. One person I think that got it right was Rick Ross. He has, Evander Holyfield's old house. And I think that is such, a brilliant thing to do your own maintenance and upkeep on your house. And it obviously saves him thousands of dollars. And so having that sort of mindset is a recipe for success when you're talking about real estate. So my thoughts about Evander Holyfield's 109 room house, it sounded great initially. It sounds like, okay, this person lives in a castle. I'd love to come and visit. But from a financial perspective, I just don't think that it was any logic tied to that. I don't know that he was planning to sell it one day and make a huge profit, or maybe he thought that his name being attached to that house would present some sort of notoriety where the house would grow in value and where he could make a good investment or return on his investment. But just, when you really think about things, it's like, that doesn't make sense. Why do you need that? So my thoughts about Hammer and his entourage is that it's not necessary. It was probably one of the most expensive things that he could have done throughout his career. And it's, probably one of the primary reasons why he ultimately had to file for bankruptcy. Anybody that is on your payroll always needs to have a specific job. And it's nothing wrong with having people that you're friends with be your employees, but at the end of the day, we need to make logical decisions. We don't need to mix friendship and business, because I think that whole emotional support mindset comes into play, and then it forces you to deviate from what is the task at hand? As an artist, your task is to perform and make money. But having somebody that'll just go and get you snacks or having somebody to walk through the malls with you, it's just not a justifiable reason to spend that sort of money. And I think what also happens is, these people are probably getting credit cards and all sorts of lines of credit. And if you don't know what those lines of credits are for or what they're linked to, it doesn't make sense. So I'm pretty sure he's not the only person that has done that, and he's not going to be the last person that does that. But at the end of the day, I don't think having that many people on your payroll as a hip hop artist is smart. So when I think about Jay-Z's investment into what he was going to turn into a hotel, I have a lot of respect for Hove. I think Hove is probably one of the most savvy investors in hip hop that we kind of have, as just an example of how to invest. I think he's very calculated and in general has made very good decisions in investing. I just think it was kind of unfortunate that this was something that maybe he couldn't foresee. I would imagine that he has a team that probably helped him in making that investment or encouraged him to make it. But as far as real estate investments go, if you're not connected with some of your community development, go to your city hall meetings to find out what sort of developments are going to happen in the community. City hall meetings are often the first time where they will reveal if a community is going to be revitalized or if a community is going to, for lack of a better phrase, be gentrified. So I think having that sort of intel probably would have helped him foreshadow that this may not be a great investment. But, I think when we look at his portfolio, this is probably, as an investor, you sometimes make a bad investment. And I don't consider it necessarily, in his case, I don't consider it a huge loss. I think it was a lesson for him. So I think his track record has proven that he's made great decisions and that he's careful about how he spends his dollar. But there probably could have been a little bit more due diligence that he did. So, love T-Pain, don't love the mindset that he had when he bought this $2 million Bugatti. I remember hearing a little bit about it when he kind of explained it. And it just, to me, it was something that was for show. It was not something that he was going to collect as an antique or collector's item. So there was no plan of this turning into something that would appreciate in value. Again, just when we do things for show, it does cost us. And so I think that it was just a bad investment altogether. I don't think that there was I don't know how he expected to get back even what he invested in that car. It certainly wasn't going to be profitable, but I hope that's a lesson that he learned from. I think a good investment is one that has a long-term plan, one that is easily researchable. There should be, whatever you invest in, there should be people that can sort of say, hey, that's a good investment, whether it be other investors, community leaders, even people that work at the financial institutions that are fronting a loan, however that investment looks. It has to be something that has a long-term plan. It has to make logical sense. You should be able to have an unbiased person, such as a broker, even a stock investor. That person needs to be able to say, this is what I project this investment will bring you. If they cannot comfortably project something and have some sort of shareholder backing, then it's not a good investment. So if the shareholders are not confident in a stock or in some sort of real estate development, then it will never be a great investment. I think Jay-Z's investment in Tidal was a really good investment. He, of course, bought low, sold high. I think he was able to sort of project the success of streaming services. And so we saw Tidal sort of give birth to other platforms, other streaming platforms, even for Versus, what they did for Versus and giving people some partial equity in that platform. I think those are great investments because you have so many people investing in it. And it's obviously growing both in finance, but also in popularity. So I think platforms like that can be really good investments in hip hop. I don't think musicians and artists learn from other people's mistakes because they're not asking questions. A lot of the times on social media, people generally buy into what's aesthetically pleasing. So the ultimate flex for most people is, let me show you this car, let me show you this house I bought, let me show you this jewelry. But nobody is showing you their losses, and nobody is ultimately showing you what they had to do to get some of these things. And what's amazing to me is, as a finance and credit coach, I have so many people that will want to expand a business or start a business, and they'll say, okay, I need to get a loan in order to scale it. And a lot of these people have horrible credit. And so I think that people are not focusing on their finances. People are not considering good habits to adopt as they're, planning to make a large purchase. And I think that's probably the biggest reason why, most celebrities don't learn from other mistakes that people made in their genre. Well, I feel like people want to keep up with the Joneses because it's just a cultural thing. Nobody wants to feel left out. Nobody wants to feel like they can't have what their neighbor has, and so I call it FOMO, the fear of missing out. A lot of people just have this fear that if their neighbor has something and they don't have it, that they're not going to be as good as that person, or they're not going to be accepted from a social perspective, And so I think that there is a lot of social pressure that people put on themselves to fit into certain circles and, to just in general feel good about themselves. And so, you think about the first pair of Jordans you got. You didn't get Jordans because you needed a good running shoe. You got Jordans because they were popular, and because all of your friends had them. And it was sort of like a rite of passage. So there was just a very deeply emotional sort of attachment to this particular item. And so I think as you adopt that mindset at an early age, if nobody breaks that sort of mentality, you go into adulthood getting more than just a pair of Jordans. Now it's a car, now it's jewelry, now it's the house. So I think that's probably why people have such a added pressure of keeping up with the Joneses. Um, I mean, we should ask Nick Cannon. I don't think that Nick Cannon considers his kids bad investments. I mean, the Bible says to be fruitful and multiply. And I think that's exactly what he's doing. He seems to be in a great financial position to do that sort of thing. So I think as long as you can afford the kids, it's not a bad investment. It's part of the cycle of life. If you cannot afford to reproduce, then yes, it becomes a very bad investment. If you cannot afford to send kids to college or you can't afford to feed them, then obviously those are bad investments if you are intentionally having kids without a plan or a safety net for supporting those kids. Whenever you invest, make sure whatever you decide to put into an investment is something that you're okay with losing. Um, all investments come with risk. And so an investment should not be something that your rent money, your mortgage money, like those things should not depend on how well your investment does. So always invest what you're willing to lose, but don't invest until you have some sort of emergency savings fund, 6 months to a year worth of savings to cover any expenses that you might incur. So your investment should be completely separate from any of the monthly flowing income and expenses that you rely on.